Hello, happy Friday. My name is Gladys, and I am the host of GPS, which stands for Growth, Prosperity, and Spirituality. Today, you guys are joining me for my first live recording. So I'm very excited to be able to have a YouTube channel and do a live recording with you guys and just share my thoughts and my podcast with you guys. So thank you for tuning in. Today's episode is sponsored by Land, Air, or Sea with G. Marie, a certified travel professional who specializes in all inclusive resorts, group travel, and river cruises. Call or text Gladys today at 385 492 0032 and let me help you see the world. So, in today's episode, we are going to discuss mental health awareness. Today is Friday, May 26th. And in a few months, we will close out Mental Health Awareness Month. I am wearing my green to represent and support mental health awareness because I think mental health is very, very important. It's just as important as physical health, in my opinion, because it affects not only how we think and feel, but also how we act. Mental health helps determine how we handle stress. It determines how we relate to others and also how we make healthy choices. Mental health is important at every stage of life, from childhood and adolescence all the way up through adulthood. You might be surprised to know that more than 1 in 5 adults in the US live with a mental illness. Over 1 in 5 youth ages 13 to 18, either currently or at some point during their life, have had a serious, debilitating mental illness. And about 1 in 25 US adults live with a serious mental illness, such as schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, or major depression. So, unfortunately, because I have had somewhat of a traumatic upbringing and I've had some traumatic things happen to me in my life. If you've listened to any of my previous episodes, then you know that my 3-year-old son was murdered in 2007. I also lost my mom and I lost my dad, lost my grandparents. Like I've lost pretty much most of the people that are close to me. As far as immediate family right now, I have my brother and I have an aunt and uncle and some cousins who are on my dad's side. I also have some cousins on my mom's side as well, but I don't really have a big family. And so that's one of the things that, has always kind of been a sore spot for me, kind of made me sad at times. Um, and so back when I was, I believe, 19 years old, I was diagnosed as having bipolar disorder. And I didn't realize at the time what exactly disorder was. I thought it was just, mood swings. Some days I would have good days, some days I would have bad days, but I didn't really think much of it because I thought it was just something that happens to everyone. It wasn't until after I started going to counseling and therapy that I realized that it's not necessarily an unnormal thing, but it's not a healthy thing to have mood swings and have good days and bad days. It happens because we're human. And so we're all going to go through trials and tribulations and days when, you feel 100 and days when you just feel like, oh man, I'm on a 10. I just don't have it in me today. Um, but that's a normal thing. It's okay to do that and to feel that way. The reason why I think mental health awareness is so important is because it helps combat the stigma that is associated with mental health conditions. And it helps encourage open conversations relating to understanding and empathy. Growing up in the African American community, therapy is not talked about. It's not one of those things that, when a family member recognizes that someone close to them may be struggling, it's not one of those things where someone's going to say, oh, I think you should go get therapy. Like it just does not happen, unfortunately. It should happen. It definitely needs to happen more, but it's not one of those things that happen. And so, because I grew up in one of those households where therapy wasn't talked about, when someone first said to me I needed therapy, I thought, oh my goodness, People are going to judge me. People are going to think something is wrong with me. Like, what do I do? How do I get around this? How do I avoid this? And after a few years of just trying to handle things on my own, I've realized that I was not doing a good job of it. I just wasn't. Um, I would have days when I would just go into a shell and I would not want to talk to anybody or anyone about anything. And it didn't bother me, but when I would come out of it, I would feel like, man, how did I get there? So I started journaling. Journaling became like one of my best friends. I love to write. I've always loved to write since I was younger. I used to write poetry when I was in high school. And so writing has always been one of those things that's come natural to me. I'm not going to say I'm the greatest at it, but I enjoy writing. And so I started journaling. And when I would go back and I would read through some of what had written, I was like, wow, I can't believe I was really thinking this or feeling this on these days, because life is precious and I love myself. I love my family. I love all of those people that are around me. But during this time, I did not love myself. I wasn't happy with where I was at in life. I had graduated high school. I wasn't living with my dad anymore. I was living on my own. One of my friends, we had gotten an apartment together, we were sharing. But because I didn't invest in myself like I should, I wasn't where I wanted to be. So I would work little odds and ends jobs and I would never make a whole lot of money. And it would bother me because I wouldn't be able to buy myself, things that I would like to buy myself because I didn't have the money to do so. And so I would get depressed because of that. We live in a society that puts so much emphasis on how you look, how you dress, and what you have. And when you're growing up around that and you're constantly seeing that, and then you don't have those things, it starts to take a toll on you over time. So I spent years feeling like I wasn't good enough, or, I was not, where I needed to be because I didn't have the money that I wanted to have. And, it didn't occur to me that having money isn't everything. I had a conversation with my fiance a few weeks ago because we watch a lot of Food Network, and we were talking about Anthony Bourdain, and we were talking about Kate Spade, and these are some celebrities that have, in the last few years, have committed suicide. And my fiance was like, man, I couldn't imagine having that much money and still wanting to kill myself. And, I told him money isn't everything. Like, it just isn't. People think it is because you do need money to do a lot of things, but money doesn't buy you happiness. Having six zeros in the bank doesn't mean that you're going to walk around and you're going to smile all the time. Like, you're human. We're all human. And as humans, we have good days, we have bad days. I remember a few years ago, back in 2018, I was going through divorce after 9.5 years of being married. And I had to check myself in for evaluation because my divorce hit me so suddenly and so like out of nowhere that I was like, oh my goodness, like what's happening? What am I going to do? How am I going to take care of my kids? How am I going to make sure my bills are going to be paid? Like, I lost so much during that transition of my divorce. I had my car repossessed. Like, I almost lost my apartment. And so I got really, really depressed. And I didn't want to do the things that I would normally do on a daily basis. Like, I didn't want to have to go in the kitchen and cook dinner for my children. Like, I wanted them to just take care of themselves. I didn't want to have to get up and go to work. I wanted the money to just come to me somehow. Don't ask me how it was going to just come to me, but somehow or another, this money was just going to show up in my pocket and I wasn't going to do a thing. And, the reality is that's not what happened. So I had to talk to someone. I had to go out and I had to seek the help that I needed to get myself to where I need to be. And even now, I still struggle with little bouts of anxiety and little bouts of, just not feeling like I'm always 100% together. But the difference is now, instead of living in those moments, I have found ways to get myself out of those moments. Like, I use comedy, I use writing, I use watching crazy videos on TikTok. Don't judge me, but some of those videos on TikTok are hilarious. Like, and I love animal voiceovers. Animal voiceovers are like everything to me. If you, I promise you, if you're ever having a bad day, go watch an animal voiceover video. You will laugh your butt off. I mean, some of those commentary, I feel like I could be an animal voiceover person. I don't think about it because, yeah, I definitely have no filter at times and I say some crazy stuff. So if you watched any of those videos, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Those animals are hilarious. But anyway, let's get back to mental health. So sorry, I got sidetracked, you guys. This is different for me. I like being on video. I do. It's just a little different for me because I'm actually more aware of my facial expressions. I'm aware of the fact that I talk with my hands. So it is taking everything in me right now to not be like, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. Like, it's taking everything in me to not do this as I'm saying certain stuff because that's just who I am. It is what I do. But that's a part of growth. Part of growth is changing habits that are not the best for you. So that's what I'm working on. So, another point I wanted to mention was that raising awareness about mental health issues helps people recognize the signs and symptoms of mental health conditions in themselves and others. Early intervention is crucial, effective treatment, and can prevent the worsening of mental health problems. If you've ever watched, oh my gosh, what is that show? It was a not a show, it was a movie. There was a movie that Holly Berry did. It was called Frankie and something. I cannot remember. Um, Gosh, I cannot remember the name of that movie, but it was Frankie and something, and it was Holly Berry, and she was playing a woman who had multiple personalities. And watching that movie, I could relate. I could totally relate because I have times when I feel like I'm having a little bit of an out of body experience is the word I'm looking for. Like, you ever just like feel like you were standing beside yourself, watching yourself do something that you knew better, or like watching yourself make decisions where you were like, now I know that I could do better or make a better decision than what I just did, but it's done now. So yeah, let me just watch from the sidelines and see what happens. Um, that's kind of what would happen a lot. I would go through life and I would just say, I probably should have did that a little bit differently. But you live and you learn, and that's a part of life. And I'm happy that I've had my mental health struggles because had I not had those struggles, then I would not be the person that I am today. I just signed up for a new therapist because the old therapist I was attending with, I just didn't really connect and vibe. She was a nice lady, but I just didn't really connect and vibe. And I feel like for me to get to where I really need to be, to not have to do therapy anymore, I really need to be with someone that is guiding me in the right direction. You know, dealing with bipolar, it's not easy. You go through lots of mood swings and changes, and it's important to have someone who understands what that's like. And I feel like unless the therapist is really trained in that, then they don't really know how to help you or guide you in a better direction. Now, that's just my personal opinion. I know, all healthcare professionals are trained in some capacity to be able to handle most things, but I feel like if it's not the person's specialty, then they may not be able to relate as much to your situation or what you're going through. So it's important that, when you are dealing with mental health issues and you're seeking out therapy, that you make sure that you really do your homework and make sure that the person that you are going to be paired with is someone that really has your best interest at heart. I've had male therapists and female therapists, and my best connection was actually with the female therapist, just because I feel like a woman can relate to where a woman is coming from or like what she's dealing with. Whereas the male therapist that I had, he gave me some good techniques, like the grounding technique is one of those techniques that I absolutely love. If you've ever had moments of just feeling like overwhelmed and feeling like, oh my gosh, I gotta breathe, do look up the grounding techniques. The grounding techniques will help you really like woosah and like put yourself in a better space. I've also looked online, because I'm always online, and there's a few apps. One that I use that I absolutely love, if you suffer from sleeping issues at all, is Calm. But there's actually some other apps as well that I found out about. So I was like, oh, okay, let me just make sure I share these with my listeners. So a few free mental health apps that I want to mention to you guys is, first, if you are looking for an app that helps with like talk therapy, then BetterHelp is like the go-to app right now. I actually, one of the therapists I had a few years ago, I found through BetterHelp, and she was really great. She had some family things happen, and she had to like leave the country or something like that, and so that was why I ended up no longer being with her. But she was really great. If you are dealing with depression, Talkspace is a really good app for that. If you need help with mindfulness, make sure you go check out Headspace. If you're looking for an app that helps with stress relief, make sure you check out Sanvella. That's Sanvello. I already told you about Calm for sleep. And if you're looking for an app that helps with positive thinking, then make sure you go check out Happify. Happify is, I think it's fairly new, but it's one of those, it's an app that's pretty decent. So make sure you check out any of those. Um, if you aren't certain if you need someone to talk to, find someone to talk to. Like that, those feelings of uncertainty or feelings of not knowing, should I talk to someone or who can I talk to someone. Your family, your friends, they may not be the best people for you to try to share any type of mental health issues with. I'm just being perfectly honest. It's hard for people to understand something if they haven't experienced it. So for me, as far as I know, no one else in my family has dealt with mental health. And so it's not one of those things that someone like I could go to like an aunt or something and say, hey, I'm struggling with mental health. Have you ever had this happen to you? Like, I'm not saying I couldn't go to her and say that, but I just don't feel like I don't feel like that's been an issue for her. So she wouldn't be the person that I would go to for that. Like she'd be the person I would go to if I want to have a conversation about God, because my aunt is very spiritual. So if I need to talk to somebody about God, she's the person I would go to. But if I need to talk to somebody about not feeling myself or just not having a great day, then I'm definitely going to reach out to a therapist. And my recommendation is that you should do the same. Like, don't be afraid, don't hesitate, don't worry about what other people are going to think about you. People are going to talk. Like, people are going to talk. That's just the way this world is. It's what we live in. People are always going to have something to say, but at the end of the day, you have to take care of you, because if you have a family, even your friends, like there are people that need you here, and you may not even realize it. Like you may not even feel like that. I just remember So at work, I had a little girl. I was helping her mom, and we were talking about towel. And the little girl, she was so cute. She had to be about 4 or 5 years old. And her and her mom were going to be leaving. And so she was like, she said something in reference to not feeling special or not feeling good about herself or something like that. And I was like, wow, wait a minute. Like, this little girl is too young to be feeling like she shouldn't feel good about herself. So, of course, naturally, I'm like, no, sweetie, you are the bomb.com. Don't let anybody tell you any different. Like, you are it. And she was like, well, my name is Brianna, and there's another little girl in my class named Brianna. So, therefore, I'm not that special. And I said, sweetie, there is only one Brianna like you. I was like, what color is Brianna's hair? And she was like, it's brown. I said, okay, yours is black. I said, what color is Brianna's eyes? And I think she said, oh, they're like blue or green or something like that. I said, well, what color are your eyes? And she was like, my eyes are gray. I said, okay, great. I said, so guess what? Just right there, you just told me why you're special. I said, and you didn't even realize. I said, you're special because A, your name is Brianna. B, you have black hair. And C, you have gray eyes. I said, there is no one else in this world named Brianna with black hair and gray eyes. So there you are. You're special. And the smile that spread across her face and the expression that her mom gave me, it really made me feel like, okay, Gladys, you said something there that really helped someone. And at the end of the day, that's what it's about. It's about helping others, being that shoulder, being that support system for someone else who may not have anyone else to lean on. So with that being said, I am going to close out with a quote. And I found this quote like very uplifting and inspirational at the same time. So the quote says, to be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. That was written by Ralph Waldo Emerson. And yes, that's what I'm going to leave you guys with. So thank you for tuning in. I hope you learned some things. Um, I'm excited. I'm really excited to see where GPS is going to go. I have some great guests coming up. I mean, great guests. Like, I have a feng shui master, I have a fitness expert, I have an amazing young lady. She is a first lady. She has her own, oh gosh, I forgot what she told me. She has her own nonprofit. She is a Christian counselor. Um, I have a business alchemist. Like, I have some great, great guests coming up. So I hope that, if you haven't had a chance to check out GPS, that you will give it a try going forward. And I'm going to leave you with that. You guys have a great day, and I will talk to you guys next week.